Hello and welcome. Today we're going to go over some figure drawing. So the thing about figure drawing, basically it's a bunch of just ellipses, and you just build the form from the inside, the human form. Kind of like the buildings, you build the body according to the dimensions that humans typically are. I hope that makes sense. So this work, at first I'm showing you is some stuff that I found from college, my first year. This one right here is actually before I even learned anything. This was one of the first drawings I ever did. A fellow classmate got up and did a pose for us. A lot of these are more basic. There's this one of a figure on a fish sort of bike thing. Here's some shading and stuff like that, some things you guys might want to closer look at. And this one right here is it's this guy who was laying down. We had to put it in perspective. We had to put this into 1 point or 2 point perspective. I think that's 2 point. It was, that's the way the class was. It was just like 5 minutes, go, and we'd be like, we'd rush for it. Funny thing about that guy, I actually remember him quite vividly. I had just transferred from one drawing class into another one, and he was like commenting on our work, and I had no idea what the class was like, and I was like, why is the model sitting there completely naked, talking casually like, I like what you did, Rebecca. Like, I'm like, what is going on here? But as it turned out, he was actually close friends with my professor, and I didn't know that at the time because I just swapped out of a different class. Here we have this is a little snippet of Batgirl. This is going into my next video. We'll be going over this drawing, but I figured I would at least show you where this kind of work actually applies and becomes applicable and good to use. So anyway, getting right into this. If you're kind of new to this, I would just do a Contrapposto Pose, which I have an example of at the end of the video. You can just take that pose and try to draw it yourself, rather than do this complicated version. Before we can draw Batgirl, we gotta just talk about how human forms are drawn. You're gonna need your ruler and a pencil, and obviously a piece of paper. And just follow along with me if you can. And I'm gonna use this pen too for a little extra work, since we're dealing with a cartoon later. Typically you don't go in with dark outlines. You just have the form and then you draw it, and that's that. Everything's good. And the reason being is because, when you're looking at life in real life, it's just you don't have outlines around everything, and yet there you are. You know the form of everything because of a difference in contrast. One thing will be darker than another, and one thing will be lighter than another. So here we're going to make the head shape, and then we're going to make him 7 heads tall. The average human is somewhere between 6 to 7 heads tall. There's a lot more about proportion and, a few things. Here we're going to take this line, we're going to go right down, and we are going to make that his breast line, basically going from his chest down in his abdomen. We'll make his shoulders go this way, and we will make his hips go this way. And I'm going to show you three-dimensionally, this three-dimensional arrow, to give you an idea of exactly what way I want the hips to go. I want them to come out of the page. Because when you get into figure drawing, you start to like to do a lot of dynamic poses. And this right here is not a beginner pose. I shouldn't be doing this, but this is a tutorial for experienced artists and new ones as well. Oh, there goes my camera. Alright, I'm going to hold it in place for this. And you see, I'm going to show you right here, if I were to draw the head on a different angle, I would put an ellipse at the bottom for the chin. And see those cross marks? Those are for the face. Some eyes, a little smiley. And when we draw the neck, it's actually more like a cylinder coming out of the head and into the rib cage. We actually don't do the angle of the traps, which are the muscles around your neck on your rib cage. We don't do that yet. So I'm going to do the bow at the bottom of the rib cage here. We're going to draw a sphere in the abdomen. You should be able to fit the individual's head in the rib cage. Sometimes, too, I like to make it so that the head fits in the abdomen as well, or at least roughly around there. You should be able to fit the head in the femur and in the calf. Basically, it's like a head length of sorts. It's like a little guesstimate that you do. And the thing here, too, is that you'll see I take the ruler and I show that going from the head straight down, you will find the foot. The thing is, the human body is basically designed to balance itself on two legs and make it so that you can stand on 1 foot or 2 feet. Usually there's 1 foot that is directly below the head because that is your center of balance. Here I'm going to put his leg out just because I'm making it more dynamic. So here we have the shoulders at different heights around the chest. This is why we don't draw the traps, the muscles around the neck on the rib cage. The shoulders are not a part of the rib cage. They're separate. You got to remember that. And so they can go in different angles. While the chest, the rib cage, is pointing in one direction, your shoulders could go another direction. You can roll your shoulders back. You can hunch forward so that your shoulders are in front of your rib cage. There's all different kinds of ways to hold yourself. That's a part of gesture as well. That's why I did that line at first that was going in an S formation. That was me getting the gesture out there. You can even do that with arms and legs and everything. Feet. So I get the joints as like these balls in between these tubes. See, now I'm grabbing the neck, which goes straight down into the chest. We don't draw the traps with the neck. We just draw the traps on top of the rib cage, going from the shoulders to the neck. So these spheres are the joints, and then these tubes are basically going between the spheres. Right now you can see I don't even know what I'm going to do with the hands. I don't even know what this person's going to be. I don't know if they're going to be walking on a tightrope or if they're going to be a kung fu master. I'm just going to let it play out as it is. So now I'm going to take this pen and I'm going to show you that the final product does not matter about, the lines that you've drawn so far, right? So if I were to take this pen and draw it out, let the ink dry, and then go back and then erase all the pencil inside of the ink, you would have the final form without any of these lines. And it looks seamless. It makes it look like, oh, how did he do that? Or how did she do that? The whole point is you make it seamless. Every artist does this work, and then they make it seamless as like an after part of the product. So there's a lot of muscles in the body, especially if you work out, you'll know a lot about them, and you got to compensate for those. It's good to know about. It's good to work out. It's healthy. I used to work out a lot in college. Actually, I got massive because between classes I had nothing else to do. I'd do the homework and then that was like it. So I completely reinvented the hand, and I do the same thing to the other side too. I just change it entirely. Leonardo da Vinci actually was very well known for exhuming bodies, digging up graves, and studying them, dissecting them, so that he could draw perfect forms. Like how I did that bow for the rib cage. That's an example of something like that. He dissected human bodies to be able to figure out everything inside them and how to make it as realistic as possible by drawing from the inside. There's also a matter of what's in the foreground and what's in the background, and using lines to separate what's in foreground and what's in background. Because if one line stops and then another one cuts it off and goes in a completely different direction, it's clear that it's in the foreground. You can see that the lats, the muscles on the side of the rib cage, go behind the pecs, the pectorals, which are... I even mess up in the groin a little bit here because I'm preoccupied with getting the product done and trying to show you and teach you in a timely manner. But yeah, you want to make sure that you get these lines to divide up right there. See that? It doesn't really work out like that. He would have fold from his thigh because he's, thighs have stuff on them, they're not just plastic tubes. So we're going to do like an old 1950s cartoon face where they just kind of like did generalizations of eyes where it's just like a shape with a dot. Some brows, just the general shape for a nose. Here I mess up on the lips, so I was like, yeah, no, never mind. We're just going to make him have a beard. And now we have a bearded guy in this position. Because I have this bearded guy, I begin to ask myself, what is he doing? Why is he in this situation? What would make somebody stand like this? Here we have that ellipse that goes around the head, so I know where the ear is placed on his head, depending on where his face is. The ear goes from the eyebrows down to the mouth, basically the slit of the mouth. We're going to give him some hair too. We get an idea of where the hair should go because we can know, wrapping around the sphere that is his head, we know roughly where everything should be. Kind of looks like a hair regrowth commercial or something like that. So what's in his hand, right? He looks like a gladiator. So let's give him a nice Greek-style sword. And let's just generally do an ellipse that could be in that area, because we're just trying to bang this out quick. And let's wrap around the arm. We feel the form of the arm, and we go around it. It's a lot of feeling in and out of the page. Here we have another strap going through his hand. So he's nice and balanced on that one foot down below his head. We got his arm in the foreground in front of his lats, his muscles on the side of his rib cage, and yet his breast is in front of that. We have an idea of where things are supposed to be because we draw the ellipses and we know where these things are. We know where the center of his breast is by having that line, the chest line, that goes down to his toes. We have an understanding of how everything is measured. Just like how we understood where his ears would be on his head because of that ellipse going around the head, we likewise know where his breast would be, his line in his abdomen, because of the cross that we made on his chest, on the rib cage right there. You could even turn that into a Templar Knight cross in the middle of his chest. So for those of you who might find this to be a little bit more on the difficult side, just try doing this Contrapposto. It's a classic standing style that was used for many art pieces, including the Statue of David, the famous piece. So just give it a shot. Just do the whole hips going one way and shoulders going the other, so that they would make a triangle kind of shape, Just try building the form. Try maybe even making your own copy of this version right here. And have fun, and we will have Batgirl in the next video about putting figures in a 2-point perspective drawing. Alright? Make sure to like and subscribe, and hit that bell thing. Follow me on Instagram. I made my Instagram Quarantine, but with an E instead of an A, because the guy who had the A already took it, and I don't like having numbers at the end of it. And for any of you wondering, that's why #Quarantine with an E is the one I chose. Not only that, but a lot of people are doing it on the A, Quarantine. And if Mortal Kombat can do it, well, then I can spell something wrong too and have it be trendy. So, you know what? We're doing it. just show me what you guys do with this knowledge. Draw your own things, draw your own superheroes or whatever the heck you want, and show your work. Let's see it. I might even show it up on here, give you guys a little shout out or something like that, and yeah, just make sure to have fun. It's all about having fun. Take care, guys.